The rain poured heavily outside, matching the storm raging in Mia's heart. She stood by the window of the grand cold mansion, clutching the fragile paper in her trembling hands. It wasn't just any paper. It was a marriage contract, binding her to a man she had never met. A man whose time on this earth was slipping away like sand through fingers. The CEO of Titan Corp, Alexander Hale, was dying. And now Mia, a poor girl from a humble village, was forced to marry him. No one asked if she agreed. No one cared about her dreams or wishes. It was a decision made by others, powerful people with their own selfish reasons. Mia's life had never been easy. Growing up in a small town where everyone knew each other, she had learned to survive with little but hope in her heart. She had simple dreams: to live freely, to help her family, to maybe one day open a small bakery. But all that changed the moment she received the news. Her father's debts had put her in a situation she never imagined. To save her family, Mia had to leave behind everything she loved and step into a world of cold walls and colder hearts. The mansion was more like a fortress, guarded by security and silent servants who treated her like an invisible shadow. But what scared her the most wasn't the loneliness or the wealth surrounding her. It was the man she was supposed to marry. Alexander Hale, the CEO everyone whispered about, was known not just for his power, but also for his mysterious illness. The doctors had said there was no cure. They had given him only months to live. A man so strong, so respected, now weak and fading. And Mia was expected to be his wife, not as a partner, but as a last desperate hope from the family who wanted to protect their legacy. But what nobody knew was that Mia carried a secret that could change everything. Hidden in her blood were ancient magic skills, passed down through generations, long forgotten by the modern world. These skills weren't just tales told by her grandmother around the fire. They were real. She had learned to heal, to mend wounds, to bring life back from the edge. But could this magic work on a man whose body was breaking down day by day? Could Mia's simple hands, guided by hope and courage, save the man everyone else had given up on? The first night in the mansion was colder than she expected. Alexander's room was dimly lit, the air thick with silence and the faint sound of a heartbeat struggling to keep pace. When Mia finally saw him, she didn't see the powerful CEO from the news. She saw a fragile man, tired and afraid, with eyes that held more sorrow than anger. It was then that something inside her shifted. She knew she couldn't just be the girl forced into a marriage contract. She had to be his light in the darkness. As days passed, Mia began using her magic in secret. With every gentle touch, every whispered prayer, she felt something awakening. Not just in Alexander, but in herself. The cold mansion started to feel less like a prison and more like a place where hope could grow. And slowly, Alexander's health began to improve. The doctors were baffled. The once fading CEO was showing signs of life that no medicine could explain. But with every miracle came danger. The family that forced Mia into this marriage watched her closely, suspicious of the changes. Enemies of Alexander, who wanted him dead for their own gain, lurked in the shadows, ready to strike. And Alexander himself was struggling, not just with his illness, but with the feelings that were quietly blossoming for the girl who saved him. How could a powerful man, facing the end, open his heart to a poor girl with nothing but magic and love? Mia's journey was just beginning. Would her magic be enough to heal not only Alexander's body, but also the broken pieces of his heart? Would love find a way where everything else had failed? And what secrets lay hidden in the walls of that cold mansion, waiting to change their fate forever? As the night deepened, Mia stood by Alexander's bedside, her hand gently resting on his. The soft glow of her magic flickered between them, a silent promise of hope and something more. But outside the windows, shadows moved closer, and a storm was about to break, a storm that would test their courage, their trust, and the very power of love. Stay tuned, because the story of a poor girl and a dying CEO is far from over. What happens next will surprise you, and maybe even change the way you believe in miracles. Days passed, and the mansion's cold walls seemed to close in tighter around Mia. The grand halls echoed with whispers, not just of business deals or family plans, but of suspicion. Alexander's relatives watched her with narrowed eyes, their faces masks of doubt and resentment. To them, Mia was an outsider, a poor girl who didn't belong in their world. They whispered about her sudden influence on Alexander's health, about the strange glow they sometimes caught flickering from her hands. Some called it witchcraft. Others called it a dangerous distraction. But no one could deny that Alexander was changing, growing stronger, sharper. The dying CEO, who had been a shadow, was slowly becoming a man reborn. Mia felt the weight of all these eyes on her, but what pressed down hardest was the secret she carried. She couldn't reveal her magic, not yet, in a world ruled by business and cold logic. Her gift was a mystery, better left hidden. So she healed in silence, offering Alexander warmth and hope in a place where none had lived before. But healing a man was more than just fixing his body. It meant healing his heart, and that was far more complicated. Alexander was a man haunted by his past. Years ago, he had built Titan Corp from the ground up with fierce determination and sharp mind. But success had come with a cost. Trust was a luxury he could not afford. His illness, cruel and unrelenting, had made him distant, guarded, even bitter. The people around him were careful not to show weakness. Yet Mia saw through the walls he built. Behind his tired eyes was a lonely man, desperate to hold on to something real. One evening, as the storm outside raged louder, Alexander surprised Mia by speaking for the first time about his fears. "I'm not afraid of dying," he whispered, his voice barely above the wind. "I'm afraid that when I'm gone, everything I built will crumble, and no one will care who I really was." Mia listened quietly, feeling a pang in her heart. She wanted to tell him that she cared, that she saw the man beneath the title. But words felt too fragile for such a moment. Meanwhile, the mansion wasn't the only place where tensions simmered. Outside its walls, the company's boardroom was a battlefield. Alexander's illness had stirred up a fight for power. His closest allies were divided. Some wanted to protect his legacy. Others schemed to take control. Among them was Victor Crane, a ruthless executive whose ambition knew no limits. Victor saw Mia as a threat, a distraction that could ruin his plans. He started spreading rumors, trying to turn the family and the board against her, but no one could deny that the CEO's condition was improving, and many wondered if Mia had something to do with it. At the same time, there was someone else watching from the shadows. Elena, Alexander's former fiancée. Once deeply in love, Elena had walked away when his illness seemed like a death sentence. Now, hearing of Mia's sudden arrival and strange influence, jealousy and regret stirred within her. Elena wasn't just a bystander. She was a force ready to fight for the man she still loved, no matter the cost. Her return brought a new kind of tension, one that made Mia's heart race with uncertainty. Mia's days were a delicate balance between healing Alexander and navigating this dangerous web of family politics, corporate greed, and old wounds. She knew that every step she took was watched, every smile questioned. But she also knew that her magic was more than just a gift. It was a chance to rewrite their story as she helped Alexander regain strength. Their bond deepened in ways neither expected. Moments of quiet laughter, shared secrets, and gentle touches began to break through the loneliness. Yet, the threats around them grew darker. One night, as Mia was returning from the garden, a shadowy figure stepped out from behind a pillar. "You don't belong here," a cold voice hissed. "Leave before it's too late." The warning was clear, but Mia's resolve only hardened. She wasn't just a pawn in a cruel game. She was a healer, a fighter, and maybe the only hope Alexander had. The tension reached its peak when Alexander's health suddenly took a sharper turn for the worse. The doctors were baffled, saying it was a setback no magic could fix. The family grew restless, their whispers turning into accusations. Victor saw his chance to push Mia out, while Eleanor's presence grew bolder, stirring jealousy and confusion. In that fragile moment, as hope seemed to flicker on the edge of extinction, Mia stood by Alexander's bedside, her hands glowing softly with the power she had kept hidden. She was about to make a choice that could change everything, risk revealing her secret to save the man she had come to love, or lose him forever to the darkness closing in. The storm outside howled like a warning, echoing the battle raging inside. The mansion. What would Mia do? Could love and magic truly conquer the forces stacked against them? And what sacrifices would have to be made when the fight for Alexander's life became a fight for their future? The answers were waiting in the shadows just beyond the next dawn. That night, the mansion felt heavier than ever. Alexander's breathing was shallow, and the doctors exchanged worried glances. Unable to explain the sudden decline, Mia's heart pounded as she held his hand, her magic quietly rising beneath. Her skin, ready to heal but at a risk she could no longer ignore. If she revealed her secret, the entire world would change, for better or worse. With a deep breath, she pressed her palms against his chest. Warm light spilled out, soft and steady, weaving through his body like a gentle wave. Outside the room, footsteps rushed closer. Victor and the board members, demanding answers, their voices sharp and accusing. Elena stood at the doorway, eyes full of pain and confusion. But inside, it was just Mia and Alexander, connected in a way no one else understood. Slowly, Alexander's breathing evened out. Color returned to his cheeks. His eyes fluttered open, meeting Mia's with a mix of surprise and gratitude. "You saved me," he whispered, his voice stronger than before. It was more than healing his body. It was a second chance at life. The revelation of Mia's magic could have shattered everything, but instead, it changed the course of the fight for Titan Corp. Alexander stood before the board, clear-eyed and confident, ready to reclaim his position. Victor's schemes unraveled as the family rallied around the man they thought they had lost. Inspired by the miracle that had brought him back, Elena, seeing Alexander's renewed strength and the bond between him and Mia, chose to step away, not out of defeat, but respect. Sometimes, love means knowing when to let go. In the weeks that followed, Mia and Alexander grew closer, not just as husband and wife, but as partners in every sense. The poor girl who was once forced into a marriage with a dying CEO had become the light that healed him, the strength that lifted an empire, and the love that gave him hope. Their story reminds us that sometimes healing comes from the most unexpected places. And when we dare to believe in miracles, even the impossible can become real. So, what happens next? Well, that's a story for another day. But one thing is certain. When love and courage come together, no obstacle is too great to overcome.